Hi, welcome to another episode of Old Airsoft Stuff. Today I'm going to be talking about the BAR M1918. It's a great looking gun, and the one I have I think is a matrix model. From what I can tell, there's about 3 or 4 different manufacturers. Lancer Tactical, another one is Echo 1, and the one that I believe I have is a matrix. I got it secondhand, so I'm not entirely sure. But from what I can tell after an online search, I think they're all based on the same general model and have the same components. I only have the one, so I can't confirm that. My problem started when I decided to refinish mine with a Parkerized finish and took it apart. In the process of doing that, I thought I was being careful, and removed all the parts going along the way. Try not to lose anything, and I removed everything associated with the fire selector valve. If you're interested, the fire selector valve is located on the left side of the gun, just above the trigger. Basically has 2 settings, fire and safe. And I've seen reports online, other reviews, about it swinging around freely. I now think I know what the problem is. Okay, you can see here on this picture where the fire selector lever, I think I said it was a valve earlier, I'm wrong, but the fire selector lever is located above the trigger. It's basically made of 3 component parts, a spring, a tab, and the lever itself, which has a notch. They all come into play together. The spring pushes the tab into the notch and retains the lever when it moves back and forth. The problem with the lever begins when you lose this tab and spring. There's nothing to retain the lever, and it'll just swing around. There's a notch in the middle of it, though, that will be held in place by the trigger itself, so that's why it doesn't just fall out. So let's take a closer look at the problem. Here's the retaining tab that sits on top of the spring. It is a tiny little part, don't lose it. Not sure you can find it online. I know I couldn't. I almost didn't find it anywhere. Thankfully, I keep my place clean enough that I found it on the floor, but absent that, there's no way I was going to find this little sucker again. This little retaining tab fits on top of a spring. The spring then sits in this hole next to the trigger. You can see it here in the picture. The spring itself is held in place by the hole and stopped by a plate that sits on top of the trigger contacts inside the receiver. And then this assembly, the spring pushes the tab into a notch that's found on the edge of the fire selector lever. The tab rides in that notch and holds it in place. The steps to reassemble all this aren't too complex, but a couple things will help you make sure it doesn't go wrong. First, the spring is held in place by the plate that sits atop the trigger contacts. That plate actually is made of like a fiber or plastic, has a little notch that fits into another notch inside the receiver. If it's not lined up correctly, then the spring can push all the way through, so check that first. Take the spring, place it in the hole, then take the tab, retaining tab, and place that on top of the spring. Then you're going to need to gently hold it in place and firmly hold it in place with a screwdriver while you slide the selector lever through. When you got it properly aligned, you should hear a very noticeable click, and that'll hold it in place. Be careful though, if while you're doing it you lose the pressure or the control on the screwdriver, the tab will launch off like a rocket. Next up is a little video of what it should look like and how it should act if you've done it right. Notice that if you turn the lever too much, I think it could allow that tab to shoot out. Not sure it'll happen every time, but it looked like that was a threat. And if you're noticing that your lever doesn't seem to stop, then you need to find something that you can put in place of that little tab. I'd considered, before I found it on the floor, I'd considered taking a piece of metal rod that it was the size of the hole, just slightly smaller than the hole, placing it on top of the spring in the hopes that it would achieve the same goal. Not sure if it had worked, but that was the best I could come up with. Well, I hope this has helped you. I know it wasn't the most technically difficult of fixes. The hardest part for me was finding the little piece, so don't lose that. But if you have one of these, I hope you enjoy it, and see you out there.